Hello everybody! Today we are discussing the only Vale resort that is somehow both completely neglected and their poster child at the same time, Crested Butte. For those of you who are not familiar with the series, here are the rules. The two of us have each come up with 5 improvements or enhancements that we believe would significantly ameliorate the issues of the resort. We don't know what each other is proposing yet. Could be something as absurd as a high-speed rail line, or entire base village, or something as mundane as a new magic carpet or parking garage. This is all hypothetical, meaning we don't think too terribly hard about permissions or money, although those are considered in most projects. We're going to critique and question as we go, and at the end, you all will put your thoughts down in the comments below, along with telling us whose plan is better. Based on the comment section of each video in the series, we'll keep score over time to see who is the better planner according to the people. Simple enough? Alright, let's begin. Now currently, the score is 2 for me and 1 for Arjun. Being that Arjun is down, he gets to pitch first.
Okay, so for my first project, I have a new high-speed quad lift that is actually going to replace the old twister lift from a few years ago, but it's also going to extend all the way down to the base. What I think this will do is it'll not only allow for a third way to get out of the base, thus relieving Red Lady and Silver Queen, but it's also going to allow you to lap these kind of uppermost blacks in one shot, and also people in the lodge, or in the the lodge that's right next to the lift, there's a mid station there, so they'll be able to just get on the mid station and keep skiing rather than going all the way back down to the base. So yeah, I think this will do good things for improving flow at Crested Butte.
I like the idea. So is the mid station load only?
Yeah, mid station is load only. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That checks the boxes for me. Honestly, in my opinion, that checks the boxes as a Silver Queen replacement. Because now there doesn't really feel to be a need to bring people up Silver Queen. We're just going to bring you to the same place as Twister, plus having that mid load, plus Silver Queen's getting old. And then the only other benefit that you would lose then is you can traverse into like Banana and Funnel directly off the top of Silver Queen. But now you force people to go to the high lift. And I mean, depending on how your high lift proposal is, but then you force people to go to the high lift, which actually limits people from going in there and overskiing their abilities, which people tend to do a lot on Banana and Flatiron.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't think about that. I intended it to be like just a redundancy lift. So, but I guess that's something we could totally do as well. Just replace it altogether.
Personally, I like that proposal more as a Silver Queen replacement than anything else, but I see the vision. Alrighty, so for my first project, I did kind of the obvious thing, and the Queen is Crested Butte's flagship lift, and she needs a facelift. She's getting up there in years. She doesn't run full speed much anymore, and sometimes she can get a little bit of lines. I'm proposing a new high-speed quad to replace the current Silver Queen high-speed quad. It'll run 1,200 feet per minute, state-of-the-art direct drive if they do that for quads, I'm not sure, to make it a super smooth, super quick ride up. And right now, the Queen stops quite a bit, and that leads to a much lower actual capacity than it says. So I'm proposing only 2,100 people per hour, and I'll talk about this a little bit more when I discuss Project 2. But yes, lines will be just a little bit longer at the base in the early morning, but hopefully not significantly longer, because with a wider chair spacing, we'll reduce those misloads, reduce those misunloads.
Okay, so my only question, I like the idea of this lift, but I was just curious, why are you going with the quad rather than a 6-pack?
The unload area of Silver Queen requires a pretty quick, like basically a U-turn. If you put 6 in there, you have a much wider terminal. That's already going to shorten up the road a little bit. Now you've got, instead of 4 people trying to make that turn, you've got 6. It will lead to sheer chaos if you try and have 6 people all making that unload at the same time.
Gotcha. Otherwise, I really like this idea. I mean, yeah, that lift is, from what I hear, is getting really old. So I think this would do wonders if you just replace it with a brand new state-of-the-art lift. Cool. So for my second project, this is kind of going to build off the previous one, but it's a high lift replacement that basically the bottom terminal is going to be extended all the way down so that it's accessible via Paradise and this new twister lift. And the top point will be the same, and it'll allow you to it'll allow you to lap a lot of the high lift terrain without having to ski all the way down to the base, which I think will do good in reducing lines there. And it'll just be a much more comfortable ride. It's going to be a triple chair versus a T-bar, so I think this will be a good. That's dragging on, but yeah, that's my second.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut you off there because I see two major issues with this. First of all, you're building a chairlift at the top of the most prominent peak around. You're going to have issues with wind, especially where that's cresting right over the top of the head wall. It's a very craggy area, which means you're going to have to make it tall. Think old sublet lift, that tall, right? To get that up and over, that's going to have huge issues with wind. Second of all, you are putting this lift, you already see people pizzaing down the Paradise Bowl because they just saw a high-speed quad and got on the high-speed quad. If people unload that Paradise Express and they look over and they just see a chairlift, they're just going to get on the chairlift. Then you're going to have a bunch of beginners and a bunch of intermediates and people who should not be up there accidentally up there. And you can put all the signage in the world, but you still get this issue with the North Face T-bar right now, where there's just like people don't even know how to load the T-bar and they're going over to Rambo.
No, those are both two very valid points that I kind of thought about before making this. And I think one thing that we could do for the whole issue about kind of Jerry's going up there is the current path of the T-bar. You could totally make that into a really wide groomer, and that would be kind of like your Imperial Ridge of Crested Butte, almost giving people an easier way down. It wouldn't be perfect because obviously you'd still have people freaking out once they get up there, but at least now you have an easier way to just kind of get down. And regarding the wind, I'm hoping, I know it's not a perfect solution, but I'm hoping because it is a fixed grip lift, it's going to just kind of sway less. It's going to probably move at a slower speed. So the wind is definitely going to be an issue that will affect this lift, and it might go down for wind hull. But I'm hoping just because of the nature of the lift, it'll do relatively okay with the winds.
Yeah, the thing about the wind too, Doppelmayr makes like wind resistant chairs. They have like slats in the back. A lot of places are buying those chairs now. Lightner Poma doesn't have anything like that. So if it's an all Poma mountain right now, aside from I'm pretty sure the high lift is the only Doppelmayr there currently. So you replace that with another Doppelmayr. Maybe do quad seats so it's a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, and do the wind resistance. And I think you got yourself a deal.
Cool.
All right, so my next project goes really hand in hand with the Silver Queen upgrade, and that's to replace Paradise. Right now, Paradise actually technically has a lower capacity than Silver Queen, and I don't think it should be that way, because the Paradise Bowl and all those blues there are very good terrain, very popular terrain, and Paradise often gets longer lines than going back to the base, which is pretty rare, at least in Colorado. So I want to flip that. I propose replacing Paradise with a 6-pack, that's going to have a capacity, nothing crazy. It's not going to be like a huge people mover. It would be 2,800 people per hour, and it would have a loading carpet to help it stop less. And that'll be just enough people to fill up those runs without them getting too crowded. And then we have the slight capacity decrease from the Silver Queen, because those two lifts pretty much serve the same terrain. And combined, I think those two replacements, you modernize the fleet, you redistribute crowds, and so the lines stay about the same. That way your terrain doesn't get overcrowded, but I don't really see a huge downside to this, to be honest.
Yeah, that sounds great. I have nothing to really attack with this one. It's a pretty safe, pretty good proposal. So yeah, like this one a lot. Okay, so in theme of making the intermediate experience at Crested Butte a little bit better, instead of a Paradise replacement, which I think is a good idea, I have a slightly different idea, which is to just make a new dedicated intermediate groomer pod, just kind of below the Teocalli Bowls, kind of behind the North Face, and that'll have a few new blue runs on it, and I think that would do good in just spreading intermediates around the mountain, giving them a whole nother pod to access, and hopefully reducing lines just a little bit at Paradise.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you did your homework on the actual contours and everything. So I'm going to trust that, all the trails actually match up. Of course, the big concern here is that uppermost face of the blue, it looks like it's facing directly south and it's coming down the face. So I feel like that would probably get a little icy. So that might be one of them ones that they just have to rate as a black, even though it really wouldn't be necessarily a black, because they just don't want people getting too in over their heads. But then once you get down into the bowl, then it's not as bad, because that should be shaded. And then I see the blacks that you have proposed with it those are fine aspect-wise. So
yes. Yep.
Overall, I mean, it's not a bad project. It's just, to me, it feels like you're building the Copper Bowl. And I personally don't like the Copper Bowl at Copper because it's just always icy and always crusty. But on the couple days where it's good, and I myself haven't been lucky enough to experience one of those, but I've heard so many good things about it. So the upside's definitely there.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping, like, look, this was in their original master plan, so the fact that they kind of thought about it, I'm hoping they had some idea as to, because it's an intermediate pot, they have to make it, like, good. I'm sure they had some idea to make it decent for everyone. So I'm just going off of their judgment rather than my own.
All right, so this is my project 3. This is a very ambitious piece of my plan, but I'm very excited to share this. So right now, the Crested Butte parking system basically involves you showing up, paying to park in this super far away surface lot, hoping it's not already full by the time you get there, because there's no overflow basically. And then you walk like 10 minutes through the village to get to Red Lady and Silver Queen. It's not the worst parking system in the world, but the key there that I hit on is just there's not much capacity. So I found this land down by West Wall that appears to be unoccupied right now, and I'm proposing a 4-story parking garage. There's 2 roads. There's one about 50 feet in elevation above the other, so that's about a 4-story parking garage. You enter at the bottom, you exit through the top. So now you have a lot of traffic that all needs to come out and turn left onto this main road. So we're going to construct a roundabout there. There will be a service exit on the lower road, and that intersection from the lower road onto the main road will be turned into a right turn only intersection, and then they can just go up to the roundabout and make a U-turn. That upper road has one connecting road in that doesn't need to be connecting because it can go back out the other way. So we'll just end that, and you'll have a very free-flowing parking structure that's going to make the parking experience really, really easy, I hope, for guests. Now, because this is at the bottom of the West Wall lift, you're going to need more capacity on West Wall. West Wall isn't long enough to justify a high speed, so I'm proposing a fixed grip 6-pack with a loading carpet to make it easier to load. And so now you're putting 6-pack numbers of people on that little T-bar road. So I'm proposing a blue groomer to be cut that would start also as a road, kind of paralleling T-bar, and then turn down and go just above the top of Peachtree. That would be fenced off and segregated from the beginner area. And then with all that done, you could then take all that land that they're using for surface lot parking right now and turn that into another big hotel or development for whatever they want.
Okay. Well, I've never been to Crested Butte, so I obviously don't really know how the parking situation goes here. But my only thing is, I don't even know if this is a valid thing. But
well, you got to throw it out there.
Is visitation really enough to justify this thing, or?
No, but it will be. And that's the key here, that they're planning for the future. Because as they keep making improvements and as Vail continues investing in their mountain, they will have increased visitation. Because the thing about Crested Butte is it's starting to come on the radar now. All the magazines are listing it as the last true ski town, the best hidden Vail mountain if you have an Epic Pass, right? Things like that. And visitation has gone up in the past couple of years. Even I've just noticed, I'll go on just a standard weekend in March, and 3 years ago, I'd walk right onto East River, and this year I'm waiting 10 minutes, So visitation is increasing, and it's mostly because of the media calling it a hidden spot, which it's not anymore.
So for my next project, I have something pretty safe. Okay, keep in mind I've never been to Crested Butte, so this is just me after scouring the internet, but I've heard that Painter Boy gets kind of crowded sometimes, and it becomes a bit of a choke. So very simply, I have it proposed as a high-speed quad now. I think this is good because it would give another beginner area on the mountain that's actually serviced by a high-speed quad, so in addition to Red Lady. And I'm just hoping this would improve circulation and stuff on the mountain in general.
So for the viewers, the way that this series works, he and I each come up with our own projects ahead of time. We don't look at each other's, like, when we're sharing these with each other, these are our pure initial reactions. So I can't call him a copycat, unfortunately, even though my project 4 is also a Painterboy high-speed quad.
I watched Peak Rankings video.
So you're supposed to say you watched the Crested Butte Insider's Guide, bro.
Was it in the... I did watch the IG as well.
So did I, unironically. It's been a minute since, I've been to that area, because when I was at Crested Butte this season, I was not skiing that stuff.
Yes! I'm the best Crested Butte guy ever. Just get it. Okay, maybe I'll say, I watched the Crested Butte Insider's Guide. I knew it!
My proposal has it starting just a little bit downhill of where your proposal is. That way we can do 90-degree loading. Because it's a high-speed quad, now we can do that. And that way you don't have this weird, like, the maze is kind of janky right now. It's not great. You do inline or contour loading instead of inline, then you can have just one maze and it's much easier to control. And then, it's a high-speed quad. It just follows in the footsteps of a lot of other ski resorts wanting to make their beginner areas high-speed. You got Beaver Creek, you got Steamboat, you've got plans in place at Winter Park, right? Copper Mountain jumped on that train. Deer Valley jumped on that train, right? So make that beginner experience really, really nice so that they will come back.
All right, here we go. So for my final project, I have a North Face high-speed quad proposed. And I know this might sound slightly unhinged and slightly insane, but this was actually in one of Crested Butte's master plans at some point, so they were considering it. And look, to me, Crested Butte, just from a reputation standpoint, has always been like an expert's mountain and stuff. So I think having a way to lap the North Face more efficiently, it's such great terrain, such iconic terrain. It's just a nightmare to lap, honestly, because as it currently stands, it's a T-bar up, ski down, depending on where you drop in, a bit of a hike out, and then two lifts back up to the start of the T-bar. So I do think, even though it's going to attract, it's right next to Paradise, which is bad, it's going to attract more intermediates because it's literally adjacent. I do think having a way to lap that terrain more efficiently will do good for the primary target of Crested Butte, which is experts.
I like the vision, I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of obvious challenges I can make with this one, but I'd rather give you some suggestions for improvement. So you have, at the bottom of Paradise, you have the Paradise restaurant. You can kind of, I think, what if you were to take the bottom of this lift, instead of where you have it right now, starting right next to Paradise, and tuck it like back in the woods behind that restaurant? So it's not quite as obvious. Then that kind of forces people to actually know where they want to go, and that generally is better. That typically puts skiers, it segregates them a little bit better. Yeah, I don't know. I really like the idea. It's just going to be so hard to pull off without sending beginners down Rambo, Yeah.
I think the one redemption thing with this is that, like my high lift right now, and even the existing North Face, you have other ways to come down, like off that shoulder that's not necessarily the North Face itself. So you can still ride up the lift. And also my new Tio Cali lift is right there too. So I actually kind of do want people to utilize it as well for other reasons other than lapping the North Face. It's meant to be kind of this lift that takes you around the mountain. So I think there are other purposes to this lift other than just lapping the North Face. So I'm hoping that you'll have less people who are inexperienced go up there. But again, with the nature of this project, that's always going to be an inherent kind of thing you have to look out for.
Yeah, I guess the one other thing I would add is just you're going to want to make it like 1,200 people per hour, like super low capacity is the only thing.
Absolutely.
But yeah, overall, I like that. I like the idea. One of the things that gets on my nerves the most about Crested Butte is Tio Cali. It takes so long to ride. However, I can't justify putting an entire project dedicated to just making it a high speed because it serves two trails. But what I can do is I can extend it further and put a mid-load where the current Tio Cali starts. Then this takes pressure off of Paradise. It takes a little bit of pressure off of East River as well, which is something that we haven't addressed this entire plan. And it adds some really, really good steep tree skiing. And that's what Crested Butte lacks right now. They have some solid single black tree skiing, but they don't have any good just pure double black, getting after it, super technical stuff. And plus that low elevation, it's going to make it a little more difficult. So I have here these two areas on the sides that you're looking at would be glade areas. Directly under the lift, the contours get a little bit weird. It's not really conducive to any actual skiing under there. So that would be a closed area under the lift. And then on the looker's right side, skier's left side here, you would have probably a groomer, just a black groomer. And then on the skier's right side, you would have a mogul run. And this one would require them to cut into the bottom face there a little bit to kind of cut a traverse. Otherwise, it gets real gnarly. But overall, there's a lot of terrain down here. And I think, rather than really cutting it up and making it super developed, just kind of leave it mostly as tree skiing and closed off areas and just extend it down there if you're experts, and really focus on the mid station for your intermediates.
Right. My only concern is basically an extension of what you said. Even outside of that closed area, the looker's right, kind of zone, it just looks super irregular. It doesn't really look that conducive to great skiing. There's a lot of just, as you said, contours and stuff. So
the thing where I have that groomer, I tried to have it kind of follow a little bit of a goalie. So those who are super dedicated, they can stay along that left boundary line and kind of traverse up and down through those to get to the lowest tree skiing. Those they can go in the middle, or they can just kind of go in the upper, and those upper and middle sections will just bring them onto that groomer.
No, I do really like this. I think it's a cool idea. As you said, experts only tree skiing, you get a little bit of that in the third bowl kind of area, but again, third bowl is not open that often. So right. I think having something that's kind of accessed very consistently throughout the season, and it's very steep. I can see the cliffs in there. I see the potential. I think that's going to be really, really cool if they do implement this.
Okay, that seems to wrap it up for proposals and challenges. Be sure to let us know who won down below, and of course, we would love to hear your guys' thoughts on our projects and what you would propose as well, so leave all that down below. As always, thank you all for watching. All our love, we're out.